This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
I'm Roby Brock. Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. It's Monday, November 28th. Hope you've had a long and enjoyable Thanksgiving holiday. Time to get back to business. Here are your top stories of the day. Consumers logged online and spent a record $24.5 billion between November 1st and Black Friday, November 25th. That is up 12% from the same period in 2015, according to ComScore. The top-selling category on Black Friday was apparel and accessories, which rang up almost $500 million in sales. Toys and hobby sales registered the biggest growth rate from last year. Black Friday online sales totaled $1.97 billion. That is a 19% increase year over year. Arkansas bank executives agreed with former U.S. Representative Barney Frank about this. The bank regulation bill that bears his name, Dodd-Frank, should have been more lenient on smaller banks. In a radio interview last week, Frank spoke of a mistake in the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. He said the asset threshold for greater supervision of banks should have been set higher before kicking in. He would have set the threshold at $125 billion or more instead of $50 billion before the higher level of supervision went into effect. How did Arkansas bankers react to the admission? Well, read their responses at talkbusiness.net. Former Arkansas Public Service Commissioner Lamar Davis has been named Executive Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, MISO South Region. Davis is a native of North Little Rock. He will serve as MISO's primary liaison with the governors and state regulatory and legislative policymakers in the MISO South region. And those are your top stories of the day. You can keep up with all of our headlines and top stories at our website at talkbusiness.net. A quick break, and I'll be joined by Skip Rutherford to talk politics. Our friend John Brummett is on assignment today. Stick around for more right after this.
First Security is here. Only here. So that means we're here, here, and here. Even here. And definitely here. Because here is where we want to be for you. First Security Bank. Only in Arkansas.
Arkansas's most abundant natural resource provides the core asset for Deltic Timber Corporation. In addition to the sustainable yield stewardship of its well-stocked timberlands, Deltic adds value by integrating its efficient wood products manufacturing facilities, as well as through planned development of commercial and residential real estate. Deltic Timber Corporation, creating value for a growing Arkansas.
And welcome back. Skip Rutherford from the Clinton School of Public Service is our guest today. We appreciate you being here.
Yeah, great to be here.
Let's talk a little politics.
All right.
Let's talk some presidential politics. You work at the Clinton School, so you know a thing or two about some Clinton politics.
Teaching a class, my final one this week on Trump v. Clinton.
Let's talk about the Trump picks that have been made public so far. I want to hear who you think's been the best pick for Donald Trump and who's the most questionable pick for Donald Trump.
Well, I think his best pick, in my opinion, is Reince Priebus as Chief of Staff, because I think he knows Washington. He obviously will work with the Senate and the House members. I think it's a very good pick. I think the guy will do a good job, and will be able to work with members of Congress, which is important.
Important not for draining the swamp, though, Skip. I mean, come on.
Well, we're not going there, Robbie. But I'll just tell you that I think it was a good pick. I think his Chief of Staff is a good pick.
I agree with you. That would be my top pick that he's made so far.
I think it's his best pick so far.
All right, most questionable pick.
Well, the most questionable pick, and let me start by saying that I really do believe, contrary to some of my friends, I really do believe that presidents ought to have broad prerogatives in picking their cabinet. I really believe that. Whether I agree with them or not, I think they ought to have broad prerogatives. I think that's what the confirmation process is about. Mm-hmm. I think that's where those issues that can be developed. Saying that, and again, I think giving the president broad range here. I think Mr. DeVos, the nominee for Secretary of Education, is probably, in my opinion, the most questionable one. Not because so much she is for charter schools or It's just that her project in Detroit, her major effort, clearly even the charter school experts will tell you that that one hadn't worked very well.
Mm-hmm.
Look at New Orleans, you can argue pro. So I think her record, not just her philosophical views, but I think her record with the Detroit project is one that makes it questionable.
I put Steve Bannon at the top of my most questionable picks list there, just because of the history and
You
the
put him in the
ties.
cabinet, though. See, I didn't think he was in the cabinet.
Well, he's a senior advisor.
I agree with that.
That's even above cabinet
Well,
status.
I don't know
isn't
about
it?
that. I don't know about that. Yeah. I mean, that's a questionable one. But I think in terms of the cabinet, I think the Secretary of Education is the one that has concerns.
Let's talk about another potential cabinet pick.
Okay.
We have not heard who Donald Trump is going to select for the Secretary of State yet. A couple of names floating around. Rudy Giuliani is one of them. I think General Petraeus' name has floated, and obviously Mitt Romney has floated out there. Is Romney getting a fair shake in all this, or do you think he's being set up for some sort of major embarrassment?
You know, it looks like to me it's just one big street fight. I mean, it's the within the party. It's a fight. I would go back, the Trump people won't like this comparison, but I would go back to the fact that President Obama picked his rival, Secretary Clinton, and she did a good job as Secretary of State. You know, Romney's getting, and I saw where Governor Huckabee was criticizing him about he was being too tough on Trump during the campaign. Again, Romney, to me, would be qualified to be Secretary of State. I think he would represent the country well. I have no idea the politics from within the Trump campaigns,
Right.
and in transition, I have no idea. It's interesting how the process is playing out, that it's very public between different wings of the Republican Party.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and talk more politics with Skip Rutherford from the Clinton School of Public Service. I'm Roby Brock. We're back with more right after this.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us. Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.
Circuits turn on the lights by making a connection, by closing the loop. At Entergy, we believe our economy is circular too. What you put in comes back. So we invest billions in new infrastructure, which helps attract new industry, which helps create new jobs. We partner with local communities to electrify the economy. And together, we power life. Entergy.
And welcome back. I'm Roby Brock. I'm with Skip Rutherford from the Clinton School of Public Service. All right, let's talk about a big development over the weekend. Fidel Castro dies. This was major. I mean, this is a guy that's been on the political scene for, my gosh, almost 60 years. Does this present some new options and opportunities for American policy now? I know you're a huge student of this, and Arkansas certainly on the cusp of benefiting from some potential changes in Cuba. Or do you think we see the Castro regime, his brother, tighten the screws a little bit more?
Well, there's no doubt that Castro was a brutal dictator. I mean, the record is clear. It's obvious that his years in Cuba were devastating and tragic for so many people. But our problem, in America, we're not at war with the Cuban people. And Castro's gone. And so it's time to, I think, look for a new beginning. So I'm sort of the belief of the Asa Hutchinsons and the John Bozeman's of the world who believe in opening relations with Cuba. And I think we should. I think, we can acknowledge how bad Castro was, and I think everybody can agree on that. But it's a new day, and I think it's going to be up to both sides, Cuba and America, to continue that relationship. And again, we're not at war with the Cuban people. And so,
but set some specific standards for what
well,
some things should be?
I think there's probably some progress that Cuba needs to show. I think quite frankly, I think Donald Trump made a pretty good statement about saying, look, let's see how serious they are in this. On the other hand, I think that the Cubans feel like that the Americans have not necessarily treated them as fairly either. And I'm not getting into Cuba-American relations. I'm no specialist. But I do believe that there are a lot of people in America and in Cuba who would find a lot of common ground among humanitarian, education, healthcare issues, tourism, agriculture, trade. There's a reason to try to get along rather than fight. I hope both sides do that.
Yeah, speaking of common ground and not finding common ground, there's also been some more controversy over the weekend, sparked in part by a Donald Trump tweet about he would have won the popular vote if it hadn't been for those millions of illegal voters that were out there.
Well, I think it was sparked by the Jill Stein recount call in the 3 states, particularly Michigan and Wisconsin, now apparently Pennsylvania.
But calling them illegal was sparked by Donald Trump.
Well, yes, but this was Trump's reaction.
Yeah.
This is how he responded to the recount. And you know, whether you, I mean, first of all, I don't think there's any basis to the Trump argument on this. But you have to say, from just the outside looking in, that it's a pretty good message diverter. I mean, he got the talk shows off his business dealings, which the New York Times had done a great. He got the talk shows off. If you're going to talk about what's wrong with the election, it's they're cheating me rather than voter fraud. And again, we've had this amazing election, which I think somebody in Time's going to look at and say, you know, the Russians were involved. You know, Ronald Reagan's got to be rolling over on this. And so now you've got
the FBI had a role.
Oh, the FBI role. It's going to be a great movie. But I wonder who'll play
as opposed to a great reality TV show.
But I do think that Trump has clouded the message, and I think that's what he was trying to do.
Let's shift gears. You're a former chairman of the Democratic Party of Arkansas. Been a long time in Democratic politics that you are well aware of. How did the Democrats recover nationally from this election? This was set up to be a Hillary Clinton victory. There was going to be Democrats taking the U.S. Senate, making gains in the U.S. House, which they did, but not nearly as probably progressive as they thought they would. How did the Democrats nationally redefine themselves?
Well, let's...
Or should they?
Well, that's a fair question. Because number one, this was a very close election. Let's go back to the facts. 100,000 votes, 3 states, less than would fill the University of Michigan football stadium. 50,000 shifted, Hillary Clinton would be president of the United States. This was not a landslide. This was not, oh my gosh, the world is coming to an end. And so you don't need to run from one side of the boat to the other to tip it over. And the Democrats have a real good tendency to do that. Okay, so let's just say, so I think what you have to do is look back and say you have to analyze this very carefully. I think one of the things is that the Democrats misjudged the Trump appeal to rural voters, and I think that's a strategy that you've got to go back and look at. You know, Bill Clinton's '92 campaign of "It's the economy, stupid." I think you've got to look at those kinds of things. I think the Democrats built a coalition and thought they could win with it, and they didn't. Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
But I don't think they should overreact. I mean, I don't think you should lose the coalition you had, because again, we have a tendency to run from one side of the boat, and Republicans do too. That's one thing about politics. The other thing, Rob, you got to remember is that this was a change election. 8 years ago was a change election. 8 years before that was a change election, and 8 years before that was a change election.
They tend to come in waves.
They tend to come in waves.
All right. Skip Rutherford, as always, good to have you with us.
Take care. Tell John Brumman hello.
I will do that.
All right.
And we will be back with more right after this.
Arkansas Electric Cooperative Corporation provides electric energy across 2/3 of Arkansas. This is an exciting time in our energy history, with incredible progress being made in renewable energy and storage technologies. As our energy portfolio continues to diversify, we'll maintain an all-the-above strategy to provide reliable and affordable electricity. Ever since the first light bulbs were placed in our members' homes, the electric cooperatives have been the solutions provider for our members, and we want to continue that well into the future.
So much of what Arkansas state employees do goes unnoticed, yet they have a positive impact on our citizens each and every day. The Arkansas State Employees Association recognizes individuals for excellence in the workplace and leadership in their communities. Congratulations to Deanna O'Malley of Texarkana, the Outstanding State Employee of 2016. we'd like to say thank you to all state employees for all of your hard work and dedication.
Time now to check out the latest in healthcare as we visit our healthcare microsite at talkbusiness.net. Our healthcare microsite is underwritten by the Arkansas Foundation for Medical Care and Arkansas Blue Cross Blue Shield. Here are some of the big stories we've been covering. Mercy Hospital Fort Smith and Mercy Hospital in Northwest Arkansas in Rogers are two of the 5 hospitals in Arkansas to receive the top A rating from the national nonprofit Leapfrog Group, which recently announced its fall 2016 release of hospital safety grades. The program assigns letter grades to more than 2,600 U.S. hospitals biannually and is considered the gold standard measure of patient safety in the U.S. Other hospitals from Arkansas were Unity Health's White County Medical Center in Searcy, Ouachita County Medical Center in Camden, and Magnolia Regional Medical Center in Magnolia, Arkansas. Healthcare coverage created by the Affordable Care Act has increased the number of Arkansas children who are covered, but 1 in 4 adults still do not have insurance. That's according to a report from Arkansas Advocates for Children and Families on health coverage in the state. The number of children younger than 19 without insurance fell to 4.9% before expanding coverage in Arkansas. More than 500,000 adults were without insurance, but the number was more than cut in half when they enrolled with the new coverage options. You can read more on the report at talkbusiness.net. Finally, the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences and the Arkansas Department of Education teamed up to establish a $1.2 million pilot program providing telemedicine to students, educators, and families in rural Arkansas. The telemedicine program will allow students increased access to health care as providers won't have to be in the school to provide it. The STAR program, as it's known, could be expanded if successful. Every day and every week, we're covering the healthcare beat with stories like these. You can stay on top of the news on our website at talkbusiness.net. Just go to the bottom third of our homepage and you'll find our healthcare microsite with these headlines and many more. That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. As always, we appreciate you tuning in. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you tomorrow.